Bailey. I know you've heard of this one before. In fact, many of our listeners probably have, but it's a story that certainly needs to be told on this podcast. This story is as bizarre as it is devastating. This week, we're going to cover the Molasses Flood of 1919.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is Calamity Janes, where two anything but plain Janes talk about disaster, calamity, wild, unexpected, sinister, but sometimes lighthearted, but mostly sinister situations.
That's Bailey.
Fine. I really was getting to it, Moo. Okay? And that's Madison.
Thank you.
We're your hosts for this episode.
All episodes.
And all episodes, for that matter. Madison, don't tell me I can do the intro and then tell me how to do the intro. Give me some creative license.
Did I tell you that I assigned an episode to Mom while we're at the beach together?
No. Do I need to bring an extra mic? I guess I'll have my travel mic so I can.
Well, she can use one of ours too.
Yeah.
You can just lean in real close, right?
That's
we'll all be together.
Real. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for. Okay. I'm now like thinking, which mics do I take? Do I take? How many do we? What do we need?
I can bring mine too.
Okay. Oh, I have two
you
tiny
should bring
mics.
your booth.
My whole booth. Packing it all, disassembling it, shipping it. Let's go.
Just so you know, I figured I should just let you know so we don't sit down one night while we're taking a little girls and babies trip.
Girls and babies. Yeah. Well, yeah, because I didn't realize we are going to be gone over a weekend. So you were thinking ahead.
I sure was.
Good on you.
And listeners, what a treat that will be to hear from our mother, Cheryl.
Yes.
That will really be something.
Infamous.
Okay, you said it, not me.
What? Is infamous bad? Infamous is the bad one. Famous. The famous Cheryl. I do forget that. Why do they put those words? They're too similar.
I don't know, but she's going to listen to this and she's going to text us and it's going to be you that said the bad thing.
Infamous isn't necessarily bad.
It's not good. Okay. Let's do this.
Tell us about the Great Molasses Flood.
Yes, I will try to keep this interesting because, like I said, I know you've heard it before, but hopefully there are people who are listening who have not heard it or maybe just haven't heard about it in quite a while.
I mean, it's pretty bizarre, and I think it's always worth hearing again because
totally agree.
Imagine your whole city becoming a candy land of terror.
Yeah, that's exactly, that is the title of this episode, Candyland of Terror.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get started. In fact,
wait. Isn't there... Wait, let me see. Hold on.
Oh, my God.
Candyland Molasses Swamp. There is a molasses swamp. And this guy looks friendly, the molasses swamp thing, called Gloppy.
Oh my God.
But this is literally... This town turned into the molasses swamp. And Gloppy... invaded. Okay, I just had to, saying Candyland reminded me I thought there was specifically a molasses piece of the board, and sure enough, 'tis. Please continue.
Wait, I'm sorry. There's not a real town that turned into a molasses swamp, right? That's not what you're saying.
No.
No, there's a piece on the Candyland board.
Yes.
The backstory of which is it was a town that turned into a molasses swamp.
No, it's actually just called Molasses Swamp. I'm saying that you're about to talk about the real life molasses swamp.
It's been a really long time since I played Candyland. Who is Gloppy? You've lost me completely on this.
Gloppy. Each little... Do you not remember Candyland? It's like there's this trail that winds across the board, and
I haven't played it in 20 years.
As you progress through the game across the board, you enter different towns or different places in Candyland. There's a peppermint guy. Oh my God, hold on. Candyland board.
I thought you meant there had been a molasses swamp that formed one way or another, and they just turned it into this attraction, and this guy who I'm picturing is like a Florida gator sort of person who named himself Gloppy was like in charge of the place.
Only in Florida would Gloppy claim he was. No, okay, you don't remember. There's the Lollipop Woods. There's the.
I vaguely remember it. I did not understand. Okay, we have to move past this.
Sorry, I was just offended that you didn't remember Candyland. You're going along with my candy.
Well, we need to introduce more kid-friendly activities now that we're about to have 2 toddlers in the family.
Yeah, and Candyland is going to be
and a newborn. And Candyland, yes. So on these family get-togethers, we should just break out the Candyland and start there.
I don't even think we have a Candyland.
Well, we're going to get it.
Lord Licorice and Licorice Castle. Ice Cream Sea. Princess Lolly Moo. The Lollipop Woods.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, you'd recognize Princess Lolly. King Candy.
All right.
Candy Castle.
I need you to shush now.
I need you to quit stifling my Candyland. I was trying to find a word that started with a K.
Charisma?
Sure, we'll go with it.
Okay.
Please continue.
In the early afternoon on January 15th, 1919, a truly massive tank of molasses in Boston's North End gave way and unleashed a sweet, sticky hell on the unsuspecting people and animals in the area. I mentioned animals because there were horses. It was 1919, and there were horses relied upon.
Well,
still pretty frequently.
There were also squirrels and probably dogs and cats on the streets. And there were I'm assuming a whole mess of animals that got caught up in this thing.
Probably. Whenever I had heard this story before, I would always get a little held up here about why there was so much molasses even existing in one place at the time. I think I always just assumed that molasses was a really big deal back then in the way that our generation really loved avocados for a few years.
Well, it probably was a popular sweetener, right? And so sugar is a hot.
It definitely was. But thankfully, Wikipedia set me straight, and we're both going to learn right now.
Okay.
Molasses can be fermented to produce ethanol, which is used to make alcoholic drinks and munitions.
Oh.
And with this disaster taking place in 1919, with World War I, munitions were oh so important.
I had no idea. Sugar alcohol.
This is why I thought it would be decent to revisit the idea. Because I think I just didn't pay attention as closely as I should have when I had heard this story before.
It wasn't because Candy got too greedy.
No, it wasn't. So no wonder ships were constantly bringing molasses through this harbor, near where this was happening to fill this tank. This particular storage tank was 50 feet tall and 90 feet in diameter and contained 2.3 million gallons of molasses.
Currently Googling water tower size. Just so I can give, so minimum for a water tower is 20 feet and has diameter of 13 feet. Standard could be up to 200. Okay. So a mid-sized water tank is what I'm envisioning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think that's incorrect. Okay. I don't think you're wrong there. It is kind of hard to picture because we just don't, other than water towers, we don't really see.
I'm thinking of a large holding pen. What am I thinking of here? And it's about a water tower. Okay.
Exactly. On the day of the disaster, it was around 40 degrees in Boston, and the tank was holding a new batch of molasses that had been delivered just the day before. The molasses had been warmed to reduce its viscosity for transfer from the ship into the tank. We'll talk about the cause behind the tank's rupture a little later, but I will mention now that mixing hot liquids into cold containers, like a big steel drum that's been in winter Boston temperatures, can be tricky business and needs to be taken seriously, especially when in such large quantities like this.
How hot are we talking?
I actually don't know. I'm not sure how hot, but it's such a huge amount that I imagine some of it must have gotten pretty hot.
Yeah. Well, Boston winter, it's really cold. So
Yeah.
probably didn't even have to be
Mhm.
that hot to create a very large temperature differential that then just like
Yeah.
compromise
And
the
it said
integrity.
exactly. And it was 40 degrees this day, but in the days before, they said that was kind of a heat wave for them. A couple days before, it'd been much colder. I was surprised at 40 degrees because it's in January. It's very cold
Oh
in
yeah,
Boston.
it did not occur to me that you said 40 degrees. That is quite a warm. In Minnesota, the boys would be wearing shorts. I do recall.
Yes. Oh
Yes.
boy,
Yeah.
would they. Just after the tank's rupture, witnesses reported feeling the ground tremble beneath them and hearing a roar as the molasses poured out of the ruptured tank. Some said they could hear the rivets shooting out of the tank and likened the sound to a machine gun.
I guess you might tell me, was anyone hurt by the rivets?
By the rivets specifically, I do not know.
I mean,
potentially. I mean, that could
it's like
kill
a bullet.
someone.
It's like,
Yeah.
getting popped out, and that'll go right through you.
To my knowledge, no, but that might not have been reported. For multiple reasons, cause of death and identity of people who were victims of this disaster was difficult to obtain.
Huh. Is it because of record keeping or because of the nature, like it's molasses?
Because of the nature of the disaster. And we'll get to that in a little bit. In an instant, a 25-foot tall wave of molasses, moving at 35 miles per hour, spread out from the tank and indiscriminately destroyed everything in its path. It's like 35 miles per hour is fast. That's faster than we can run.
Well, it's fast for it's not. Anytime I'm behind someone going 35, I'm probably like go faster, but it's still very fast.
Yes.
And
yeah, but when you're not in a car, people can't run that fast.
And you think cars are big. This is a wall of molasses that you can't dodge or run from or go around. It's just coming at you.
Exactly.
It's like it's a tsunami of molasses.
Yes, precisely. Buildings were swept off their foundations and crumbled like tin cans. Wikipedia provided a quote from Stephen Puleo in a Boston Post report. There, he says, molasses, waist deep, covered the streets and swirled and bubbled around the wreckage. Here and there, struggle to form, whether it was animal or human being was impossible to tell. Only an upheaval, a thrashing about in the sticky mass, showed where any life was. Horses died like so many flies on sticky flypaper. The more they struggled, the deeper in the mess they were ensnared. Human beings, men and women, suffered likewise.
I have now been forced to think about what perishing by molasses would be like.
Not
in
good.
that it's like drowning, but like far thicker. You know?
Oh, yes.
It's
like molasses is 1.5 times more dense than water.
I can't breathe.
Yeah. So when you first hear about this, it's like a cartoon. Like you're imagining a wave of like big sticky candy like coming at you, and it's almost too bizarre to be true, but it was obviously terrifying and devastating and likely much more deadly than anyone at the time would have originally bargained for. Yeah. History.com had a fascinating article just about why the disaster was so deadly. So like I said, molasses is 1.5 times denser than water and is typically a pain to pour. It like takes forever, right? And you wouldn't think about it moving quickly. Well, being a non-Newtonian fluid, the molasses upon release from the tank would have acted like a mudslide or a lava flow. That enabled it to travel at 35 miles per hour so fast.
Yeah. Got a lot of mass there.
People were swept off their feet, and as the warm molasses was thinned out and exposed to the cold Boston air, it became more viscous and began to harden. Anyone or anything in the wave was soon to be trapped, making a swift rescue all the more important. So in total, 150 people were injured and 21 people were killed. Some were drowned, some were victims to the debris carried within the sticky wave, because you also had pieces of building and machinery, because this is a very industrial area, mixed into this molasses, and like you're just this like rag doll being thrown around in this horrible sticky wave. It's just awful.
That must have been so horrifying.
Mm-hmm. The first responders on the scene were 116 cadets from the USS Nantucket, a training ship at what is now known as the Massachusetts Maritime Academy. The cadets bravely charged into knee-deep molasses and retrieved anyone they could find. So also, you can't, because it's like not a clear liquid, you're like, I'm sure figuring out the depth in some areas was impossible. And like I said, it was cooling and hardening, and so they just wasted no time.
Well, and it got harder for them to move. And like, what if they, it's like quicksand. What if like you fall and your hand gets trapped, and then you're just like, you slowly get overtaken by the molasses that's hardening and
Exactly. But they didn't think twice about it. They just helped. And a good thing they did. They saved a lot of people. Soon after, the Boston Police, the Red Cross, the Army, and the Navy were all on the scene and ready to help. So this, thankfully, is a story where people took action immediately, yes, and it really made a difference. Rescuers spent 4 days searching for anyone who may have survived, and even longer tending to the injuries of the victims.
4 days. I mean, I don't know why that's shocking to me. That it just, I guess it speaks again, reiterates the scale of the disaster. That it required 4 days. It's like not a little spill of molasses. It's a large area of waist-deep molasses to trudge through. Yeah,
because unlike with a tsunami where there would obviously be standing water for a long time, it's not going to just recede eventually. It's there until you do something about it, basically. So 119 Bostonians brought a class action lawsuit against the United States Industrial Alcohol Company who owned this tank. The case is apparently considered a cornerstone for modern corporate regulations, which is good, and one of the first class actions in Massachusetts. USIA, which is the industrial company, claimed anarchists blew up the tank.
Huh?
Boo. Is the reaction there.
I was like,
yeah, it's not true. That's not what happened.
That's how they send a message. Molasses.
After 3 years in court, USIA was found responsible and paid out $628,000 in damages, which is roughly $109,000 per victim in today's money.
Sorry, how much is that? Say it again.
It's $109,000 per victim in today's money. It was about $7,000, I think, back then. And that was to, the victims and the families of those who died.
This might be a silly question. Is it because what factors were to blame? Like, which factor is it? Is it that they were handling it unsafely? Is it that
Well, I'm so glad you asked.
Okay.
Let me tell you. Let's talk about why this happened. It actually took a while for the truth to come out, as does happen with really horrible, really big, and kind of bizarre disasters like this. And when people are
trying to literally cover up their mistake.
Yeah. USIA tried to shirk responsibility, but there's a lot that goes into figuring out something like this. That History.com article provided a great analysis, so this is where I got that information. The tank's steel walls ranged in thickness from 0.67 inches at the bottom to 0.31 inches at the top. I am obviously not an engineer, but even I can tell that seems too thin.
Also,
right?
Is it standard to have that kind of variation? You don't want...
because it's mentioned here, I would assume no. But, so it was too thin, and that's the first problem. But I don't know about the deviation. Next, the rivets were poorly designed. There was too much stress on the rivet holes. The article states that the tank had been filled 29 times since it was built in, I want to say 1915, but only 4 times to its maximum capacity. The last of those was 2 days before the disaster, when a ship deposited 2.3 million gallons of molasses into the tank. Just for reference, that's enough molasses to fill 3.5 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
I think I needed to envision a bigger water tower. I think I was not envisioning a big enough water tower.
It's hard
Right.
to imagine because it's like
Yeah.
50 feet tall.
Yeah.
It's huge. So there was also an issue of leaks. This particular tank was known to groan and creak with every fill and was so leaky that children would bring cups to fill with the molasses that dripped out.
Okay. Probably should have been your first concern.
Yes. On top of that, at one point, a worker brought shards of steel that had been shed from the tank's walls to the treasurer's office to warn of the tank's dangerous potential. And the treasurer responded, "I don't know what you want me to do. The tank still stands."
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Good thing this wasn't for human consumption, because can you imagine being like, sir...
Well, some of it was eventually used for human consumption, but I think it went through a lot before it got put into alcohol.
Well, here's hoping, since there were metal shards in it.
Yes, I completely agree with you. Lastly, and what no one knew at the time, was that there was not enough manganese mixed into the steel when the tank had been built. This made the steel brittle under 59 degrees. And as we talked about, it was well under 59 degrees when this happened and in the days leading up to it. That, combined with those temperature changes that we'd mentioned earlier, between the weather and then trying to manipulate the viscosity of the molasses for transfers, that may have been the straw that broke the camel's back.
Of misaligned inputs.
And that is the molasses flood of 1919. It is bizarre and devastating, and 21 people lost their lives needlessly because no one was willing to do what they were supposed to do. It was just a big ethical failing on the part of the USIA.
Which we now have oversight for, it sounds like, because of this. So
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So that is it. That is what I wrote.
Excellent job pulling that information, because it had been a while since I'd heard it. And again, I just think when I first heard it, I did not understand the magnitude of it all.
Yeah. I know. I remember listening several years ago. The Dollop did a really good episode on this. I'm sure lots of other podcasts have too. But there's, they have much longer episodes than we do, and they do this for a living. So they have a great episode. If this is intriguing to you, go Dollop to your heart's content. They're a wonderful podcast.
A question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, no, go ahead.
I probably should have asked this up front. What is molasses?
That's a great question. Let's see what's
so
the
glad
have
I'm
to
not.
say.
It's like, this is either Madison's gonna look at me like I am absolute silly goose, or
no, I think it's just one of those things where it's like if someone said, "What is sugar?" and you're like,
is it?
Apparently, molasses is the dark, sweet, syrupy byproduct made during the extraction of sugars from sugarcane and sugar beets. So I think we all could have surmised that it was like
I think my question was just, how did it get into its syrupy? Okay,
we did that.
Okay, we made it that way. But it's from plants. Okay, what's sassafras? Can you Google that too?
Yeah.
Why do I feel like those are related?
What?
I don't know.
Well, sassafras is a plant. The root bark is used to make medicine.
And root beer. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know why. Sometimes I get molasses and sassafras confused.
I just Googled what is sassafras, and the second thing that comes up, sassafras drug, what it feels like in comparison to Molly.
What does it say?
I just exited it out. That's okay. I don't know.
Sorry, not. I would need to. First of all, I would need to know what both feel like. Just to be clear, I need to know what one feels like, and then how the
sassafras
and also, can you get
is
sassafras?
A hallucinogen that's also known as MDA.
So probably not what they still use for root beer, because I drink quite a bit of that, and I'm not feeling any in an altered state of mind. I love root dear. It's one of my favorite soft drinks.
I love it too. I didn't know that you ever drank it though.
Oh, love it. Absolutely love it. And his little root beer barrel candies. Love those too.
That is news to me.
Yes, I truly love it.
How have we been best friends for so long and sisters for even
For our
longer?
whole lives. Sisters for yeah, I guess we haven't been best friends our whole lives. Certainly not.
Listeners, Bailey and I despised each other for the first 13 years of my life.
Oh yeah. It's a real enemies to friends sort of story, ours.
Yeah.
Mortal enemies.
Oh, God, we hated each other so much.
Oh, we did.
It was so bad. Our poor parents heard nothing but, Bailey tried to kill me.
And I, like a psychopath, was like, no, I didn't. But yeah, I did. I did.
I mean, I was really
she hit
annoying.
Me. No, I didn't.
I was really terrible.
I did.
But yes, you were gaslighting me all day long.
Oh, was I? Oh boy. Toxic. I was a toxic 12-year-old.
We were so terrible. But I was terrible too.
Yeah.
You were terrible in like a psychological torture kind of way. I was terrible because I was just really annoying and like mean and just plain mean.
Yeah, you were mean. Like
I was, for sure.
Yeah.
But you,
I don't know which came first.
But you you got me.
Yeah.
You really got to me.
Yeah. Well, because you really got to me.
Maybe
you'd like hit me. Like you were mean. So you'd do something like hit me. And then you'd be like, I'm sorry. And I'd be like, no, you're not. If you were sorry, you wouldn't do it again. And then that would like send you into a tailspin.
And then you would hit me harder because you were so much older than I was. Yes. And then I would tell on you and you'd be like, no, I didn't. And
no, I didn't.
Our parents would be like, would you guys both just shut up?
But you would get in trouble. Be like, well, Madison, did you hit your sister?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an issue.
Yes, you did. I'm sorry I gaslit you, Moo. I really hope that didn't damage you too much psychologically.
You know, I was just thinking, I have this recurring dream at like the worst points of my life where I will have people like, it changes a little bit over time and stages of my life, but I'll be like in my own home or something. This is the one that I always think of, is that like I am in my own home and I've invited family members and friends over for like a housewarming party, except the house is haunted and I'm terrified to be there. And so I invite these people over to be like, okay, I need help. I need help getting out of the house. Like, I'm afraid to be here. I don't feel safe. And no one believes me. And I think you caused it. And I
don't think I caused that. That sounds nothing like, except I do love to freak you out. I do.
You
really
do.
Love...
You also, I remember specifically you telling me that you were an alien and that every night after Mom tucked you in, you would go to space and you would tell them about me.
And I was a weird kid. I was a weird kid who didn't have a lot of friends. Okay, whatever. Apparently had a very active imagination and not a lot of friends. There.
You also told me that little like pink stuff in the corner of your eye, like closest to your nose, that it was your liver and that Mom and Dad had theirs removed and they were gonna take mine.
Here's why it's so weird. Why would I have told you that?
I don't know.
Why would I have told you? How did I come up with that? I don't consider myself to be a creative person, but man, apparently I was at some point.
You're an extremely creative person. You've always been wonderfully creative.
I do not think of myself as creative.
I think you
clearly.
I think of you as incredibly creative. I don't think I'm creative at all.
I think you're really?
No, really. I don't think I'm creative even in the slightest. I've gone to you for every Instagram caption, every like I've gone to you for everything.
But you don't need me for that because you are actually between the two of us the best writer. Like not just even between the two of us. You're an amazing writer. Well, you're the best writer. But like of the two of us, you're the writer.
Yeah. Well, now instead of gaslighting each other, let's just build each other up.
Let's build each other up. And best friends, you build each other up too. Let's be a community of builder-uppers and helpers.
But also, if you have mean sister stories, like funny mean sister stories,
Funny,
not like
yeah,
really
like they need to end up on a good note. Not
like we
and then
want to know
never
that you
spoke
guys
again.
are on okay terms.
Yeah,
But like if you have
yeah.
stories like this, we definitely want to hear them.
Please. In fact, I'm just gonna go ahead and announce this. We're no longer Calamity Janes. We are Did You Hate Your Sister podcast?
Where we unpack psychological baggage every week.
Yes.
Oh my god, I forgot. We despised each other.
Did not like each other at all. So parents out there, Madison is on her second, and you just never know what kind of dynamic your children are going to have. And so if you too are looking at your kids like, oh my god, they're psychos, and they're not going to like each other, just
there is
trust.
Hope. Yeah,
there's hope.
Mm-hmm.
They will grow up, they will mature, and they will become each other's best friends.
Exactly. Bailey and I are 6.5 years apart. That's a huge age gap for some people. It was definitely big for us. It had its own challenges, but we pulled through. It helps that Bailey's so immature, and that
it does.
helps
that Madison is
I'm
84.
a people pleaser.
Yes.
So.
Madison was born 84.
Yeah.
And I emotionally never age, except hopefully I did grow out of the sociopathic tendencies.
You
okay,
are
good.
like the complete opposite.
Good.
Now, yes.
Good. I don't know what was ailing me then, but so sorry
I
about
don't know.
that.
And every time we have a tangent like this on the podcast, I keep thinking, oh god, people are going to hate this. They're just like going to sign off before they get to this part.
They might, but hey, you got...
but it's going to be there for us. We do this podcast just because it's really fun for us, and we like getting to share this interest with other people, but we are always going to be able to listen to this stuff, and it's
forever
and
really
ever. Nice. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Forever and always.
Yeah. So this is not only your sign to send us your sister or brother stories.
Yeah, a sibling. We're
sibling
looking for
stories.
All. Yeah.
But also your sign to start a podcast.
Yeah.
Come do it.
How'd we get here? Okay. I see. Because that's what we did, and it's fun, and we love it, and we do it for ourselves, and together, it's something we do as a team, a sister team. I see. Yes, you too should start a podcast, but not one about sibling stories, because that's ours now.
Or about disasters. Can you just let us try a little bit longer in the disaster
realm? Yeah, give us a little bit longer on the disasters thing, because I think we could really get this down.
I think we're going to get there. I feel like our 70th episode is really going to be it for us.
Yeah. Guys,
we're going to make it big.
This is 45.
I can't believe that. That's
unless
wild.
I misnumbered, and then it might be 44 or 47, 46.
That's okay. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter, because we're doing this for us, and we love it, and we enjoy it, but we don't get us wrong. We love you two best friends. So.
Oh, gosh, do we? Yep.
Do we ever?
And if you hear a story or something we talk about, you know more about it, or you know something different, or we got something a little off, let us know. Contact us. We love hearing from you guys. We like learning, even if that means being told we were wrong about something. And I
love being educated. Have I told you how much I love learning? I think I realized that that's part of what helps me feel like, this is going to sound existential, but like alive is when I learn new things. And I'm like, wow, the world is just so cool. There's so much to learn. And it's like, I realized I think I really like learning.
That's amazing. Never lose that. You will if you go to professional school.
That's why I was like, should I go pursue an advanced degree in anything? And I was like, no. I was so unhappy when I was in a formal learning environment. No.
Yep. Yeah. So
not that you shouldn't pursue your dreams if an advanced degree is required. You absolutely should. This should not be a deterrent. Everyone is different. Learning happens in many ways and forums. The end.
Oh my gosh, we've really covered a lot of ground on this episode.
We have unloaded a lot of baggage onto our listeners today, and so sorry about that.
You know what? It's okay. It's fine. I'm okay with it. Okay, thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much, best friends.
We had so much fun with you guys.
So much fun.
In a couple of weeks, you will hear from our mom, which will be an experience.
But you'll hear from us in between then, too.
Yes,
so it's like, we're not going anywhere.
Just hype yourselves up for it. That's all.
Yes, prepare
yourselves.
She's
so special.
Yes. Okay, you're not winning brownie points, so just...
Okay, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye.